Suicide has been described as a public health issue, with over 6,000 people taking their own life each year in the UK alone. Suicide is a complex subject for those affected to speak about, but with the help of organisations such as Survivors of Bereavement by Suicide, also known as SoBS, victims can begin to express their feelings and gain the support they need during difficult times in a safe and confidential environment. Jill Boyling, a regular of SoBS in Aylesbury, is raising money to remember her parents who lost their lives to suicide 10 years ago. To commemorate the 10-year anniversary of her parents' passing, Jill is completing her Stride Against Suicide, a 5-day walk with other survivors of bereavement by suicide from Aylesbury to Brighton. On the 14th of April 2008, Jill discovered the devastating news that she'd lost both of her parents to suicide. Despite both of her parents suffering from mental illness, their passing was completely unexpected. With the focus on looking after her son, Jill locked away all her thoughts and feelings and rarely spoke to people about it, and found that when she did mention it, people were uncomfortable. As her son grew older and became less reliant on his mum, Jill began to think more and more about her parents. During this extremely emotional time, she knew it was time to talk. After a bit of research, Jill attended her first SoBS meeting. She described it as a godsend. She could finally speak to people about the tragic event, with others who'd understood how she was feeling and in a safe and confidential environment. She is even looking into becoming a group leader and opening a new support group in Milton Keynes. Stride Against Suicide will take place from the 10th to the 14th of April, and Jill hopes that the walk will reduce the stigmas surrounding suicide and raise awareness of SoBS and the work that they do. Some money that will be raised will also be going to Hector's House, a charity that educates young people about suicide to prevent them from taking their own lives. We spoke to Paula, a volunteer at the Brighton SoBS support group, to talk about the stigmas surrounding suicide.
Sadly, I lost my younger brother 5 years ago this September, and it became really apparent rather rapidly that there really weren't enough services out there to help us. And from a family, we're very close and still had lots of interaction and were able to talk openly and turn to each other. But then it also made us realise that a lot of people out there don't have that support network. Very sadly, people think it's out of weakness that people take their own lives. It's from a very, often very thought-provoked place, that people feel that they're a burden to their loved ones. But also, if there's no hope, it's all about hope, and if the hope wanes, then pretty much so does the will to live. You know, many a time I've had people say, oh my gosh, you know, how weak or how selfish. Selfish is another key word that is often thrown out to us that are survivors. And what they fail to realise, again, as I've said, it's about the sheer loss of hope, and there's nothing selfish about it. They think they're actually protecting us.
To support Jill's Stride Against Suicide, you can donate to her Just Giving page and also follow her journey on Facebook. Just search online for Stride Against Suicide. If you have been bereaved by suicide, support is available from Survivors of Bereavement by Suicide. Just visit www.uk/sobs.org.uk for more information.